Hello, everyone. We are live. This is Dr. Nelson Vasquez from Central Florida. Please let me know where you're watching from. Put it in the chat. And we are here today on September 18th, 2025. Uh, we're here today with Reverend Cathy Dixon, and we're going to be having a nice conversation for the next hour or so about her story of healing and her way of eating, and also what you're doing to spread the word,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
All right. Uh, Let me go live on Instagram. And so thank you for being here. Apologize if the date on the title said anything different, but we are live today on the 18th of September. Uh, Please, if you have any questions, put them in the chat. And if you precede them with a QQQ, it'll be easier for me to identify and tag it. All right. So, good afternoon, Cathy. How are you doing?
I am doing very meaty, very fantastic.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I'm gonna let you go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah.
Tell us who you are. Tell us your story of healing. Tell us how you eat
Yeah.
and what you do about it.
Yeah. I feel like this is like launching the plane or the rocket, right? Let's take off. Let's go. All right. That's what you do when you're meat fueled, right? Ready to go.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
anyway, as Dr. Nelson mentioned, I am a minister, but I'm also just a person. And so I've had quite the journey, actually. I struggled with weight my entire life. When I was a kid, you know how you talk about that fat kid in the school? That was me, right? And then I did all the yo-yo stuff like most people do. My first major diet was when I was in 12 years old or something like that, going to WW. And of course, I lost over 100 pounds then, gained it all back. Just the yo yo stuff, tried all the other stuff that everybody else has tried, all the crazy things. When, Back in January 1st, 2006, I was supervising or managing these two group homes. And we wanted to do a health challenge for the staff and for the residents. A lot of us wanted to lose weight. And so I thought, okay, we're going to do this. I am going to do this. Now I'm leading these teams, two different teams against each other. So
Mhm.
I'm leading them, which means I have to do it. And I thought, what am I going to do? And I heard about this diet called Atkins induction. So I went on that and I did. I lost well over 100 pounds. And I thought, fantastic. And so I've been, yeah, more or less keto sort of since then, but it goes on and on. After a while, around 2015, I had a divorce and kind of threw in the towel on all that for a little bit.
I have a
And
question,
then
and sorry to interrupt
yeah,
you. Sorry. Good.
yeah, go ahead.
I can identify with what you just said. On and off. You did it for a while, had success. What kept you from thinking, okay, I am going to continue doing it this way with the
Okay.
Atkins?
Well, okay, because Atkins worked for me. I
Yes.
just was so used to everything I was doing perfect. I loved it. It was working for me and working great. And so I did gain some back at that
Okay.
point. And I was still kind of eating Atkins, but got into those bars and the shakes and all of those kind of things. And that's what put the weight back on, or some of it, not a whole lot, certainly nowhere what I lost.
Okay.
Then there was this thing that happened in 2020 that you might all remember. And I was watching that closely. And I noticed that the people that were getting very sick had 4 comorbidities. And I had high blood pressure again, which had been healed earlier. So I thought, well, you know what? I'm going to have to do something. I got to take charge of my own health. So I started back on Atkins because I knew that that worked for me. But then I looked online and I started to see, well, I was following Dr. Berry like years and years and years ago because he was in the low carb community. And I saw that he had gone Atkins, gone carnivore, and he'd been doing it. I don't know how long it was, maybe a couple of years or so. By then, I don't really know, a while. And I thought, so basically it's just the same. It's just that the carbs are lower. In fact, there isn't any or next to nothing. So I thought I'm going to try that. And besides that, when I was buying all these vegetables, I was winding up throwing them out lots of times. I wasn't even eating them because I didn't really want them. So I thought, why buy them? I'm wasting money. So at that point, I went on carnivore and I wanted a support group. So I've been in a number of different support groups. Initially I'd gone to Dr. Westman because I knew him from years before, read the book, and that was the Atkins book and all that kind of thing. And then I went into a steak and butter gal. And then it was Allison and Kevin for a bit, Dr. Lisa Wiedemann, Kelly Hogan, Dr. Berry's, and then Joan Ifland, and Healing Humanity. But I was watching Dr. Kiltz. And a cool thing is I went to one meetup that was in Canada not that long ago, last June or so, whenever. And I met Dr. Kiltz. And I really, really liked the way that he thinks, and that he's so encouraging and accepting and everything. Unfortunately, Dr. Nelson didn't come. Maybe next time. So I didn't get to meet you in person. But it's so powerful just to meet all of these carnivores. And I found out that there's more in Canada. I always thought I was the only one.
We have a couple here right now.
Fantastic. Welcome, you Canadians. I'm from Niagara, Ontario. So, hey, if you want to do a meetup, contact me. That'd be fantastic. So anyway, I continued to do carnivore and I was finding improvement, continual improvement. So I've got a list. I wrote it all down and I encourage everybody, write down as things start to get better, write them down. Because just recently I was finding things are still getting better. I mean, how can this be? I'm almost 5 years in now, 4.5, almost 5 at the end of the year. So here's the list. I had acid reflux, so GERD, that is gone. I mentioned the high blood pressure, that is normalized. I was pre-diabetic. My last A1C was 4.8. I have more energy. I can move easily. I'm not hurting and in pain, and I'm more awake. I used to not be able to stay awake. I would eat my lunch and I'd be past it. I'm so, I just fall asleep. New clothes, of course, that's a real bonus. New clothes. I went from a size 26 to a 14. And I was a little bit smaller than that. I was a 12 at one point. But I did put a little bit on. And I'm 5'9". So I have been diagnosed with 5'9".
Okay.
5'9". So I was diagnosed with hemicrania continua, which means I got a headache on one side of my head all the time, which was kind of funny because I went to the doctor. I said, I've got a headache on one side of my head all the time. And so they send me to a neurologist and do all these tests and whatever. And they come back and tell me the same thing, only in Latin. And then they wanted me to take a prescription. That's not happening.
I was writing down the comment, but I have to say it now because hemicrania continua basically describes that you have a continuous headache,
It's a,
but it doesn't tell you what's causing it or anything like that, right?
nothing, nothing. I had to laugh too. I thought, you mean I went through all this for you to tell me what I told you only in Latin? That's anyway, that's what that was. So he prescribed some kind of medication. And the medication, I look at the side effects, I thought, oh yeah, you might die. And I was like, what? No, I don't want this stuff. Basically. So anyway, my blood sugar is normal. I mentioned that the headache is very much reduced. In fact, mostly I've realized some things that really make it far worse. Stress for one, lack of sleep for two. So my EGFR, it was 56 and it went up to 94. I had a heart murmur like forever, and that is gone. They can't detect it. Something that really affected me a lot and bothered me was the chronic constipation. I'm telling you, I cornered the market on everything you could find trying to beat the chronic constipation. I used laxatives and enemas and teas and pills and I pretty much always had to have a plumber's snake with me to clean out the drain kind of thing should I go. I was diagnosed with vasculitis at one point, and then they changed that to capillary fragility. This kind of means that the little capillaries, like it looks like pinpricks all over, and that disappeared. I don't have that anymore. I had a Morton's neuroma on my foot. That is like having electricity that shoots up your whole body when you just happen to stand on that foot at that spot. And that is just gone. Now, the latest one. So we're talking 4.5, almost 5 years in. The latest one is I went to the eye doctor and I got my eyes checked. Well, my eyesight has improved from a minus 2.75 to a minus 0.5 in one eye and a minus 1.0 in the other eye. And I used to wear bifocals and I don't wear bifocals anymore. And I'm like, really? So I did talk to Lisa Wiedemann a little bit about that, but it's been amazing what it's done for a lot of people's eyes. And so that's basically what's been healing in my body. Is there any more to come? I don't know. I'd love to possibly lose a few pounds, but that's just pride or whatever. But I feel great. And
well, that's probably the most
part.
important thing, right? Because all these things are definitely victories, all of them.
Yes,
And
all of them.
I've been writing down. I probably missed a couple, and it's too long of a list for me to repeat. So go back and listen to it again if you want to.
Exactly.
But it is remarkable that even after 4+ years, you are finding new things. And I've heard from others that have been doing this way of eating for longer than that, and they keep finding things that improve. So it is not a cure-all, by the way, although it would sound like it, right? But there are so many things that improve. And did you expect when you went carnivore, did you expect all these things to improve?
Well, I didn't expect it. No, I was hoping just for the blood pressure to come down because I knew that I could do that with Atkins and I didn't want medication. And it was kind of funny when I did go to the doctor and he said, and it was, he says, oh, because he had given me high blood pressure medication. He says, oh, it must be working well. And I said, I didn't take it. His poor face. He's like, oh.
So right? How did you do? Did he ask what you do?
Yes, he did. He said, what did you do? And I said, I just went low carb. I can't tell him how low. I mean, I couldn't break the guy's heart, you know. But anyway, so he just said, well, keep doing what you're doing.
You can
and that was
argue with
it.
results. If doctors might
That's
not
right.
agree with this way of eating, but when you're going there and you show improvement, hardly anyone is going to say, "Oh, you got to change that." It seems that some do once you tell them, "Oh, I'm eating mostly red meat or something like that." They'll have a they'll have a cow which she can then take home.
Exactly, exactly. That just reminds me of my daughter. So I have a daughter with diabetes, and she was in the hospital. She'd had a heart attack. So here she is in the hospital. She's had a heart attack, or it might have been the time she had a stroke. She was there a couple times. But anyway, they come in. The nurse says, "You didn't eat your breakfast," and she says, "Well, if I eat that, then my blood sugar is going to go up." She said, "No, you have to eat your breakfast because I have to give you your fast acting insulin." And I thought, my daughter says, "That's crazy. Why would I do that? If I don't eat it, I won't need the medication." So it was a real argument. So what did they do? They sent the dietitian in to tell her that she needs to eat it. Like, we're not thinking. And this is one thing I love about carnivore is you can control your frontal lobe. You can think. You have a clear head that you can actually think for yourself instead of listening to whatever, dogmas out there. And you can experience for yourself, not just someone else's experience. So
It's
as I
it,
was, okay, go ahead.
yeah, I was gonna say it's kind of, I'm gonna use this word, but we have these big associations, academies putting out guidelines, and they tell us, particularly with the diabetes, oh, eat anything you want. Your diet should include about 50% of the calories from carbohydrates. But what if it didn't? Would a blood
Yep.
sugar be going up higher? Would you need as many medications? Maybe if you cut the intake, you wouldn't have the severe up and lows, and you will be able to deal better with this.
Yep.
But you know to me it doesn't make sense anymore that I'm going to tell, oh, follow the guidelines of the American Diabetes Association, 45 to 55% of calories from carbohydrates, and just with a chaser, with a
With a
chaser of
chaser, yeah.
insulin. It's
It
just,
doesn't.
when you think
It
about it,
makes
it's
no
really
sense.
ridiculous.
It's very much so. It would be like taking in a poison and then getting the antidote for the poison. Like it just doesn't make
Yeah.
sense.
Just
My
have the antivenom at hand, and
yeah, after the snake
put
bite.
your hand down into the
Yeah.
snake's nest, right?
And we've seen it, people that have diabetes, if they follow this lifestyle, I would say most often, perhaps always. I don't know. Maybe they need less medication. They're more stable, like you're saying, and some don't need it at all. In fact, my daughter, who's a nurse, I have a couple daughters that are nurses. So she tells me, she says, well, she said, "Mom, you're really still a diabetic. It's just you don't eat that way." And I thought, no, 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 I'm not, because I don't eat that way, right?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned this. It gives me the chance of saying something. But does it matter whether you fulfill someone's criteria for what we call diabetes? Does it matter or not? At the moment, your A1C is 4.8. And let me tell you,
Uh-huh.
that tells me, at least, that's the reflection, right? For the past 3 months, at the very least,
Yep,
your blood sugars are nowhere near the levels of a diabetic, which
that's
means
right.
your risk of heart attacks and strokes and all the other complications of diabetes are down to probably near or at zero. Okay. And I left this
Yep.
comment because, is he from the same area you're at? London, Ontario. Uh,
Yes,
So
it's not too far.
does it matter whether, if there is damage in your body? Does it matter if it's still there when it's not causing your blood sugars to be high? It's not causing your A1C to go beyond 5.6. You said you were pre-diabetic.
Hmm.
My own theory is you're either diabetic or not, and 5.6 and 5.7, to me, in my mind, the difference is you jump the shark, you hit the wall, because you can be a little bit pregnant or pre-pregnant, and I
Yeah.
think it's the same thing with with
Hmm.
diabetes. uh but I mean, the proof is in the pudding, like they say. A1C 4.8, a long list of very dangerous things. Some of them are not dangerous at all, right? For example, the hemicrania continuous was a painful thing, a bothersome thing, but they couldn't find a specific thing that was causing it. Now we can probably say inflammation
Yeah. Oh,
uh,
yeah, for sure.
fairly, but nothing that we could say was gonna kill you, right?
Hmm.
Some chronic problems like constipation, it could be bothersome. I don't know if anyone dies from constipation either, but hypertension has an increased risk for heart
Hmm.
attacks and strokes. Uh, just the A1C being beyond 5.6 has an increased risk of all cause mortality, uh, heart attacks and strokes, cancer. Okay, so you've cut your risk, which is what we're trying to do. At the same time, you're living a better quality of life.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And the reason I wanted to to cut back on the carbs to begin with, to watch my blood sugar, was because my father had diabetes. My mother had diabetes, all type 2s. My brother had diabetes. My father had gone totally blind, and my brother lost his legs, went blind, and now since that point, he's passed away. He's younger than me. And my mother, she had mental health issues, and I'm sure that was from the diabetes. And she wound up committing suicide. So my father, when he was dying, he said to me, he said, Cathy, watch your blood sugar. Watch your blood sugar. Don't let that happen. Watch your blood sugar. Because he'd had this horrible experience of going blind, and it, and then it was cancer, which is interesting because some of those things may be related. Now, not always, because we know that cancer is not always caused by sugar, but it definitely could be affecting it. So I wanted to learn more about carnivore, because you know what they tell you. They tell you you've got to eat vegetables. Even on Atkins, they say, oh, yeah, you have to have 15 grams, I think it is, a day of vegetables or something. And I thought, well, yeah, but I don't really want them. So I had to look up more and find out more. So I took some courses. In fact, I am currently in Kiltz coaching course, and it's been going fantastic. You just learn so much. You're with other carnivores in this community, those that are online. You're with so many others, and it's just a kind and loving community. And so
So
before I get into the course,
have
go
you
ahead.
learned a lot from the certification
Well,
course?
I have learned some, but I was just going to get into some of the stuff I already had learned from other courses. Like I
Or
took
reinforce some previous
oh,
knowledge?
definitely reinforced, and it was more detailed. So if you go into, or then some of them anyway. So if you go into Kiltz's coaching class, which would be a fantastic idea, you're going to learn a lot more of the science behind it. It's just the full spectrum instead of focusing just on some area. So I did take the nutritional advisor from the Nutrition Network a few years ago, I also became a food addiction recovery advocate through Joan Ifland in the addiction reset community. I became an insulin IQ coach with Dr. Ben Bickman. And like I said, currently, this is where I'm at. And I teach addictions at a college locally. So it's been, I love learning and continuing to learn. And it's just really, I don't know, I find inspirational to be around other people that are like-minded, that have found health or are seeking to improve their health. And some of you may remember Jeff DeProsperous. So I used to be in Jeff DeProsperous's group. He had a support group, and that was, just pretty awesome. And I want to make one comment to Michael in London, because I used to live in London, Ontario, and I actually pastored a deaf church. It's called Royal View Deaf Church, and I drove a school bus there years ago. Just tidbit. Nobody needs to know. It's just a tidbit from my fellow Ontarian.
All right. Let's see. We do have a question here. So someone was reacting to my introduction, and he's asking, did he say Reverend Cathy? Tell us a little bit more about that so Papa knows and
Sure.
others
Sure,
know.
Papa. Sure, Papa. Carnivore. I've seen you around lots. So I have been involved with the church since like forever, pretty much since I was born. And I have been in missions. I lived in Africa, in Botswana, Africa. I've traveled to Kenya, Uganda, South Africa, and just speaking, truth and speaking love. What I feel that I carry when I go somewhere, when I go to any nation, any little village or anything like that, is hope. And I find today, even with teaching addictions, people have lost hope. Now, sometimes they lose hope. One of the things that contributes to that isn't just the stuff happening in society, but it's the fact that they can't really think straight. They're running on their limbic system. They're not really using, the prefrontal cortex to make decisions. And they're listening to all this stuff. What you listen to will affect you. What you eat will affect you. What you watch will affect you. The people you hang around with will affect you. In fact, you become like the 5 people you hang around with the most. So I have pastored churches here, and the last one was Royal View Deaf Church. So I would speak in sign language, and yeah, and it was fun. It's a great group of people. But then when the 2020 thing hit, I was trying to do things online, but I had no idea how to do any of the technology. So I was kind of hindered there. So I had done some messages online. I think that there's maybe one on my YouTube. That's about it. And they said to me, no, we don't want you to do it like that. We want you to do it like you did the hearing message. But I didn't know how to do that. So I just got very frustrated with it. And I didn't know how long this whole thing's going to last. And so I wound up leaving there. But and since that point, all I do is, I do have an invitation for next June to go to Kenya to speak at a conference. I had one for this November, but just didn't have the finances to go. So it's there. I'll go when I can.
So, sometimes we say things and it sounds like we're preaching to the choir. You might relate to that expression. But I'm going to repeat this in case anybody here has not heard it. Most people who died during that time that you're referring to, they were not metabolically healthy. It didn't
Exactly.
matter what the age was, they were not metabolically healthy.
Yeah.
And that's obviously, we know what the direct cause of the reason they got hospitalized was. Everybody knew about the virus and all that, but almost everyone that died is because they were not metabolically healthy,
That's right.
and their bodies couldn't withstand the attack, right?
Yeah.
So if you're metabolically healthy, your quality of life improves. You're able, your immune system seems to be able to fight infections better,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So most people, or a lot of people on carnivore, do relay the fact that they don't get sick as often.
Oh, yeah.
I used to have maybe 3 sinus infections a year. It would start with some nasal allergies, which I don't have as much symptoms anymore, although I still take a little loratadine, uh, because I don't like to be talking with a runny nose. But my symptoms have pretty much disappeared. I had been taking that for a long time, and I still take it, by the way, because there is some apparently some benefit relating to cancer, uh, with loratadine, which is over the counter. So I still take it. That's the point. But everything started always with a sinus, with a
Hmm.
runny nose, with allergy symptoms, and it would turn into worse congestion, and then it would turn into sinus pain, pressure, and the
Hmm.
thick color mucus. At which time, then I would have to take an antibiotic, and I would have this probably about 2 to 3 times a year on a regular basis, especially with the change of seasons. I would get sick, and a few times it went to a pneumonia. One time, this was about 2008, I got pretty sick. I got pretty sick, and my fourth antibiotic was the one that finally broke the cycle. But since I've been carnivore, I have not had any serious infection. I don't remember if I think I may have had, and I've been 2.5 years, over 2 years carnivore now. Maybe I've had one sinus infection, and I've gotten the, the that little plague 2 or 3 times. But last 2 to 3 days, I'm better. Of all things, by the way, one or two of those times it was my grandson who gave it to me.
Yeah. Grandsons are like that, aren't they? Yeah.
So,
Okay,
anyways,
good.
the bottom line is, if you're better, if you're feeling better, your quality of life is better.
Yes,
That
that's
is
right.
a huge success in my mind, because I have no idea if I can extend my life expectancy. I think we can theorize, and of course, there's a bunch of people who study that. There's no way for you to know whether you were able to successfully live 24 more hours than you were going to, let
Hmm.
alone 10 years. Uh, but
Hmm.
if at least you're living whatever it is you have on this earth with a better quality of life, I think that is gold.
And I don't think you can extend your life expectancy, but I do believe that you can shorten it, right? So, like
Certainly,
you were,
that's addition by subtraction, right?
that's right.
You are very sick, and then you're gonna die before you were supposed to. By
That's
the
right.
way,
So,
I don't
go
know
ahead.
if you've heard me say this, because I've said it several times in the course of lives, and probably in the course. Uh, but Psalms, I hope I'm saying it correctly, the chapter and verse. Psalms 90:10.
Okay.
David, who lived about 3,000 to 3,500 years ago, okay, King
Mhm.
David is giving God a report, okay? And he's telling God, oh, and we live about 70 years. The strongest of us lives 80.
Mhm.
So, from at least a fairly reliable, documented source, whether you believe in the Bible or not, there are so many historical things that have been proven. You have to be give it credit, at least for the history,
Mhm.
even if you didn't accept the whole
Mhm.
thing as true. But he's saying more than 3,000 years ago, basically that the people of Israel were living 70 to 80 years. What is that life expectancy now? 70 to 80
It-
years. I
yeah.
mean, it's pretty much the same. Our life expectancy hasn't changed in 3,000 years.
Right. Now, I was studying health sciences at McMaster, and they said that our bodies are made to live 120 years if you look at the cellular um, components, basically. So 120, I thought, hey, yeah, that's what I'm going to aim for. 120 with health. And
And
what you were, go ahead.
so they discovered back in around the 60s, maybe late 50s, early 60s, they discovered the telomeres. And the
Yes, telomeres.
telomeres are the end,
Mhm.
sort of the end cap of the DNA. And according to the science, they've discovered, along with that, they sort of determine how long we should be living. And you're right, it probably should be somewhere around 120. Well, you being a Bible expert would know that there's only two verses in the Bible that talk about our age. And I just mentioned one of them. But in that one, David was giving God a report. It
Mhm.
wasn't from the mouth of God that was saying 70 to 80 years. There is
Okay.
another verse in the Bible where God says, and man should live 120 years.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, I can't
So
quote where it is, but yes,
yes, it's I used to remember. I have it down because it's a point that I always try to make sometimes with
someone can put it in the chat. Somebody's on
yes,
that.
yeah.
But
And so yeah, it does say that, and we're talking about back in the first few books in of the Bible, where that it says it's right around the Great Flood. Uh,
maybe
so
after that. Mhm.
so science now has discovered that probably that's how long. So it's interesting how sometimes we discover things that validate things that have been in the Bible for a long time.
It's actually
Uh,
a really good scientific textbook. Um, and I believe that science and the Bible that they align always. And if they don't, it means that something is wrong with the science, which does happen sometimes, or it's the interpretation of the Bible that's wrong. So, but I believe that they totally fit together. And like you were just saying, oh, oh, like you were just saying, Dr. Nelson, you haven't been sick a lot since you started carnivore. So that's another thing that I've noticed, that I used to get colds at least twice a year. I would get cold sores all the time. And I've been sick with a cold twice now in the past almost 5 years. And I've only had probably 2 cold sores in that length of time, too. So I think that's pretty amazing.
Absolutely. It's and again, in this community, I don't think many people will be surprised about us making a comment like that when people get sick several times a year. Many of them do, because most people are metabolically not well.
Right, right.
So, uh, let's see. We have one question more here. Let's bring it up. Miss Laugh a Lot, who is in Canada as well. Thanks for telling us about your daughter and how she handled the nurse and direction. Is your daughter carnivore?
She is not carnivore. Recently, she's been going through some more health challenges. So she's been on keto, off keto, on keto, off keto, that kind of thing. So recently, they're not finding a pulse in her feet. And I'm like, okay. I said, well, if you get desperate, you could try carnivore. You know, a lot of us come to carnivore because we are desperate or because there's something that we really want. And I did not want to be like my dad and my brother or my mother as far as health goes. And we need to take charge of our own health, not to
Yeah,
be dependent on drugs. I mean, I teach addictions. I don't want anybody to be dependent on drugs. Are they necessary? Yes, sometimes. But if you can do something, why wouldn't we? Yeah. So right
certainly.
now she's off.
And sometimes each one of us has to come to the decision of, you know, on our own. You, as a mother, would advise your adult child, but the key being that they are adults and they make their own decisions, right? Uh, have three adult children myself, uh, but each one has to make the decision to get a handle on at least on a big part of what we can do about it. Uh, Took me, as a matter of fact, this here is after my stroke, and I was still like that. It was a few years after my stroke that I finally said, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. So, not even a stroke really moved the needle much for me. It was other things later
Yeah.
that made me make a big change. And we are, we all. I have a list. By the way, your list definitely is longer than mine.
I'll keep working at it, Dr. Nelson.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Uh, so, uh, are you still pastoring the church or
No,
no?
I do individual counseling for
Okay,
people, and I do hold just one live each week that's biblically based. Now, it's not carnivore, but
okay.
I do hold one live Thursdays at 7. And
So
yeah,
you you must. It's interesting. You must have come across people, and it's not a particular religion. Many people, based on the Bible, will tell you, "Oh, the way we're supposed to be eating is all plant based."
yeah.
So, what say you? What do you tell
What
them?
saith you? Yeah. Okay. Let's get into what the Bible says about this whole deal. If you start in Genesis, now we're looking at the Garden of Eden, where everything was perfect, right? There was nothing evil there. Everything's perfect. And they were told to eat fruit, and then they were told to eat vegetables. Great, great. Whatever grows from the ground there, but you can eat that because it was perfect. But when you get to Genesis 3, and that's where the fall came in. So the fall is when man started to do evil things. So they sinned. That's the word that's used in the Bible. So man sins, and then they were cursed after that. In fact, all of creation was cursed after that. So what happened to those plants? They were cursed. in my opinion. So at that point, I believe they became toxic. That's, whatever span you want to put on years, go with it. But I believe they became toxic at that point. When you move on to Genesis 9, then they were commanded to eat meat. And then a lot of people will talk about the Daniel diet. So it was 10 days or 21 days, and all they ate was a pulse. So the pulse was vegetables, basically, plants. That's what it was. Instead of eating the king's meat, because the king was getting sick. The actual word for meat, you have to go back into the original language, meant food, not necessarily meat in that instance. In
in
some
that
other
context.
instances, it does in that context. So therefore, they didn't eat the king's food. They asked
Which,
if
by
they
the
could.
way, and I'm sorry to interrupt, because, by the way, what else did the king have?
Right.
Let's say he had meat, but what else did he have?
He had the rich foods. So he would have had dairy. He would have had lots of honey. He would have had
Bread,
very. He would have had bread that they made. Absolutely. He would have had everything.
alcohol.
Alcohol. Absolutely. Absolutely. He would have had alcohol.
So the
So
equivalent to today's, in that context, would you agree, is the ultra processed foods? I'm
it
not
was.
eating
Yeah.
the ultra processed food. I'm gonna stay with whole foods,
Right.
right? All right, go ahead. Go ahead. You haven't finished.
No, because no, I'm forgetting where I left off. Yeah. So um, that was just for a period of time. So they were withdrawing from the king's rich foods.
Mhm.
Well, if you do that, then it's way healthier, right? You're way better off to eat things from the ground. And they were toxic. However, they probably chose well and their health recovered. Like they were strong. Eating the king's foods or the standard American diet or whatever, European diet, whatever you want to call it, it leads to sickness. That's what we call in the insulin IQ is the plagues of prosperity. Even in that day, it was a plague of prosperity because he was the rich one. He could eat whatever he wanted to. There you go. Genesis 6:3. My spirit shall not always strive with man. I've got this kind of blocked here. I
For
can't
that
read
he
that.
also is flesh, yet his day shall be 120 years.
Yeah. There you
So,
go,
and
folks.
that is the only place in the Bible where God tells us,
Yep.
and this is after the flood, uh,
Yep.
how long we're gonna live. By the way, I you should add this to your arsenal, because there is an instance closer to creation and closer to the Eden, but after the fall, after the sin, there is an instance where the Bible is clear. You have to do a little bit of deductive reasoning here, but what was Cain's? And because after the fall, the first story is Cain and Abel, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, I'm not a minister. I have been a preacher plenty of times. But right after the fall, the first story is Cain and Abel. What was Cain's profession, and what was Abel's profession?
Well, one was a herder, and so Abel, and so they had to give an offering to God,
Yes.
and the one gives the meat, which was accepted. The other one gave the vegetables,
Yeah.
which was
And
not accepted.
before even the sacrifice, which is key in
Mm.
the story about what happened afterwards, but why would Adam and Eve and whoever else was in the family, because we don't know, we're talking about adult already Cain and Abel. So there were, we don't know how many years because the Bible doesn't say. But why would they keep sheep? What was the
Oh, to
purpose?
eat,
There were
to
three
eat.
things that the sheep provided. Otherwise, they wouldn't keep them in a
Yeah.
herd, right?
Sheep,
First,
so
the
sacrifice.
wool. First, the wool. So provided
Mhm.
something to probably to make their clothing. Second, milk, and third, the meat.
Yep.
If they didn't eat meat, and if they were strict vegans, they would not be keeping sheep, right?
Right.
So, anyways,
Absolutely. Well, you can go back even into Noah's Ark. So if you want to go into Noah's Ark, they took two of every kind. That doesn't mean um, kind means that would be two dogs, because
yeah,
we know since that time there's been genetic differences and they've changed, right?
yeah.
Two cattle. Since that time, there's been
Well,
genetic.
actually, they took seven of the clean animals, by the way.
Oh, that's where I was going to go. And then for the clean animals, they took more. Why was that? Because they ate the clean animals.
Yeah. And
And
they
when
did they take broccoli in pairs or in bunches?
mm, they did not take any broccoli or pears or in bunches or at all. They would have taken the food for the animals, but none of that.
Anyways,
So
I
there's
it's interesting.
another verse that I kind of like, and there's different interpretations on it too, but we'll go with it. Let me find the verse. Where'd it take off to? I've got it here somewhere or another. Oh my goodness. Where'd it go? It is here. Oh, here it
It-
is. Romans 14, verse 2. It says, one person's faith allows them to eat anything, but another whose faith is weak eats only vegetables. And I think of that today with us having to stand up for what is right. We have the faith, if you want to call it that, we have the faith to eat meat. Now, we don't want to cause offense to other people. I mean, there are people on a health journey and they may be eating just vegetables. So we don't want to purposely offend them, but we also need to do what's best for our own health. So finding that balance
Absolutely. Yeah.
can be kind of hard sometimes.
Everything we say, we should say with love.
Say
We
it with
should
love, absolutely.
we should
And sometimes,
say it inspiring hope. You mentioned hope at the beginning.
yeah,
Definitely.
with
If you
hope,
have any
love.
other questions before we signed off, because we're gonna have to do a hard break at 4 or a minute before, put them in the chat. Uh,
One more thing
so
about love, you know, oftentimes people say, who is God? What is God? Well, it says in the Bible exactly that God is love. And that deep, deep love that's within us. And I see that happening in the carnivore community, that there is a love extended to each one. We might do things a little bit differently, but we still love each other. Absolutely. Meat was celebrated and eaten. And the fat, okay. So at the top of your kidneys, the adrenal glands, it's like a fatty lobe at the top. That was a burnt offering unto God, not your own, the animals.
all right. Eric makes a comment here. Interesting. The fruits and vegetables today have been modified by Monsanto to fruit
Right.
sweeter. Apples are sugar bombs. The oxalates would cause microbiome gut problems. And almost, if you think about your typical supermarket, when you go in, very often the produce section will be up front somewhere, right? Uh, Almost everything there has been modified. And we knew about genetic modified organisms before it was a thing, by the way. Before
Mhm.
DNA was discovered, before we could manipulate genetics at the microscopic level, we had breeding techniques. Agriculturists have known forever about
Mhm.
modifying the genetic. Of course, they didn't know they were modifying the genetic code, but modifying plants, trees,
Yeah.
fruits, vegetables to, to improve, to get something better. So we've been doing that for thousands of years.
Yeah. And Monsanto, they modified it so that the plants themselves could withstand the glyphosate, which is Roundup.
Hmm. All right. So, Sharon, I'm sure they were not. I don't agree with passage. I'm sharing it because I'm being questioned. Don't know which passage you're talking about. So I'm not
Yeah.
following the conversation. So I
Yeah.
put that.
Uh,
Uh,
there is controversy. I used to be married to somebody that had a doctorate of divinity, and so we'd have a lot of discussions. But even amongst the ones that have doctorates of divinity, very, very highly intelligent people, more intelligent than me, maybe. But anyway, they would debate, because, like I said at the beginning, science and the Bible always align, but sometimes science is wrong or we misinterpret what the Bible says. That happens too. And I could misinterpret something. My suggestion is study for yourself. Same as carnivore. Study for yourself.
all right. This is a little bit of an irreverent joke, but they also mention PMS in the Bible. You read where Mary wrote Joseph's ass all the way to Bethlehem.
Yeah,
And
nothing's ever changed from that, has it? It's the same thing.
all righty. So thank you for being here, Cathy. I didn't expect this to go anywhere biblical, but I enjoy the conversations.
Yeah. Well, thank you everyone for the kind comments that you've had, and Dr. Nelson for inviting me. And I do encourage all of you to just study more, get into a good support group, Kiltz Mighty Tribe. Take the course. You're going to learn something. It's going to help you in your journey and help you to help others in their journey. That's my advice.
And let me see if I can bring this up quickly. If you have not, this is where you have to go. This is Cathy's YouTube channel, right? The Kingdom Way, Keto
The kingdom way, yeah.
Carnivore.
Mhm.
At the Kingdom Way, it's I think you have it on
Oh,
your
that's
screen, right?
yeah. That's from my book. I wrote a book back in 2015. It is not a carnivore book, but it does have to do with many, many different aspects of letting go of the weights that are holding you back in life. So it's not the physical weight only, although we talk about nutrition, what I knew at that time. And it deals with the mind, the battles that the mind goes through. It deals with generational curses and all sorts of other things in there too. So it's on Amazon.
And
It,
Lois was kind enough. He put all your links there on the chat. So just
yeah,
click.
Lewis is on it. He knows what he's doing.
All righty. So you have multiple places where we can go and find you. What's the one place? Would it be your YouTube channel? You have a website?
I do have a website, and that is thekingdomway.com. I don't really update it, but it's there. There's
Okay.
YouTube. I believe it's on Instagram too, and I don't really put much there either. So mostly just the YouTube, and I'm not even doing a lot there because I'm doing so many other things. So,
All righty. Well, thank you for being here. This has been very good. Go and
thank
subscribe
you.
to your channel. Everybody, you have it in the chat multiple times, like in the way in YouTube, and you also have a group on Facebook, and all that. And it's in the chat. Lois uh, put the links there. Thank you for being with us. It's 4 o'clock, so we're gonna say goodbye.
Thank you.
Eat meat.
Bye for now. Yep. Bye-bye.